Welcome to the Mindset Evolution podcast, powered by Self-Recoding, world-class consulting and coaching services that you can access at selfrecoding.com. Self-Recoding is a unique blend of neuro-healing modalities that will empower you to reach your full potential. Join thousands of others who have experienced rapid results in their journey of personal growth. Now enjoy our show where we bring you tools for a powerful mind with your hosts, Kathi and Daisy.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the final episode of Season 7 from your favorite podcast, Bold and Blonde Mindset Evolution, the podcast that gives you tools for a powerful mind. I'm your host, Kathi from Australia. With me, as always, your host from America, Daisy Papp. Can you believe, Daisy, that it is the last episode of Season 7?
Yes, I can believe it when you say so, because you're the one who is taking count and you make the episode lists. And yes, I believe you. And I find it fabulous. It is stunning. And I applaud your and my persistence and being so consequent and being so consistent in what we're doing, because we do it with so much love and we do it with so much passion and really wholeheartedly for bettering life for all humans.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you being my podcast partner, and I appreciate me being your podcast partner. This is wonderful. I'm super excited to hear that we're going to start Season 8 soon. But now bring it on. What's the last episode of this season?
Yes, it is exciting. And I applaud you too for your consistency, Daisy. I know that there are many times where one of us has not quite felt up to it and the other one has encouraged and inspired the continuation of our efforts. So for the final episode of Season 7, following Divide and Conquer, I felt like we needed some solutions. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I have titled it Love is the Answer, because I do believe that you believe that love is the answer. And so that's what I want to talk about today, how love could be the answer and how we actually start doing that practically around the world.
Well, I really appreciate that title because it's really up my alley. Again, so I truly like that love is so important and that it becomes more and more important because, not that it never was important, but because people start thinking about it again and reconnect with love. Actually, this year earlier, I think it was maybe in March or April, I did a presentation to an audience of 52,000 people online, where the title of my presentation was Love is the Answer. Now, before we can understand why I think so, it is imperative that we define love first. So when we want to define love first, so that we know what we're talking about, because otherwise I can say ching-ling-a-ding is the answer and nobody knows what a ching-a-ding-a-ling is. I just made this up, so it sounds weird and I wanted it to sound weird. But when we cannot define it, then how can we start promoting it and how can we then be willing to preserve it? So when I speak of love, I understand that there are many people with many diverse definitions. And I asked hundreds of people what their definition of love was. And it is really stunning, or at least it was stunning to me, to hear so many answers that to me were very far from, I think, the solution can be. And I put it out there, my definition of love, and I'm not saying that this is the one and only definition. I'm not saying this is the right definition. I just share this is my definition of love. Love is not only a feeling or a phrase. Love is behavior, period. Now, when we go to the behavior parts, I wrote a book about that topic, and it's quite a piece of literature. The title of the book is 5+2, The Formula for Finding True Love. Now, why 5+2? Because I'm referring to 5+2 behaviors with which we can measure love and lovability and loving behavior. Those points are respect, admiration, consideration, dignity, empathy, having a word, meaning someone can count on my word. And the second part of the +2 is following through in a timely manner. Now, when we meet somebody who behaves consistently based on these 5+2 points, respect, admiration, consideration, dignity, empathy, having a word and following through in a timely manner, they earn or gain something. What that is trust. And when we have a closer look to trust, or actually the lack of, without trust, we have nothing. Now, when we have nothing because the majority of humans cannot trust the other humans, then we have a big problem, because without trust, we have nothing. Now, how I think love is the answer is when we start behaving in loving ways, and how we go about that is preserving first and then promoting human values. I see it in so many industries that the human factor is lacking more and more, and how people treat one another is often inhumane. How adults treat children is inhumane. How humans treat the elderly is inhumane in many cases to me, based on my standard. And when we reconnect with the human values and value those, then there can be trust growing. And once trust can grow, then there is love. And when there is love, we have the answer.
Yeah, okay. So that is all very common sense to me and makes sense to me. And I guess where I can see the tough part of this is people have been behaving for a long time now in ways that don't necessarily indicate love or trust. How do we get people to change their behavior so that we can bring about this movement of love? Because I agree, I think that these steps will change the world. But there are 8 billion souls on this planet. So how do we start the movement where people want to join in this and they want their behavior to be loving and they want to act that way towards other people? A lot of those 8 billion souls are highly traumatized and damaged now after what the world has been through. And I think that one of the default settings when that happens to you is defensiveness and self-protection. And that doesn't necessarily make you comfortable in being vulnerable about being loving. And so I think there's a little bit of a divide there. How do we help people take that step across from being hurt and traumatized to wanting to be loving to other people because they too can see it's a solution?
I'd like to circle back to the beginning, what you said of this section. If I heard you correctly, how do we get people to change, or how can we change people? First of all, I'm not here to change anyone. It's a tough cookie to make changes for myself, within myself. So I'm not taking on that job, and I don't think that is possible anyways. I believe, though, that inspiration is very powerful. And I like the play on words. And when we look at the word inspiration, so that means that we are in something. Now, when we look at the origin of the word spirit, so when we are in the spirit, when I am in the spirit, now then I can be so inspirational that it will be contagious towards others. I can only lead and live by example. And the more we are, the greater the motion. And now to the second part that I heard you say, and is of great importance to me, and I totally agree with you, is hurt people hurt people. Therefore, in order to stop being hurtful, we must heal ourselves. We must heal our inner world. We must heal these old wounds. We must heal these generational wounds. Also, but not limited to, the generational inherited dynamics. And there are ways how to do that. And I conduct workshops about that. And I speak about that publicly. It is possible. And it is more and more people coming on board. There are professionals and executives who are just sick and tired of the non-fulfilling time they spend at their work to make a living, but don't live. So the fulfillment factor is lacking, and they are hurting inside. Now, that's a great combination that leads to stress, to burnout, to breakdowns, to nervous breakdowns, and I could go on and on. So without healing our inner world and inspiring that and giving people the options and the tools so that they can practice the skills and become more skillful, that is, I think, the way to go. And during my weekdays, I do a lot of writing for presentations or to send out as proposals. And there's a short paragraph, and I'm going to read it because I think it shares very much where we go when we don't make changes now. It says, if the reason for the dire state of people's mental health remains managed as it currently is, and if there is no progress in providing mental health support that leads to lasting results, it is imperative that we pause and reevaluate what we are doing. Isn't it time to rethink when 1 in 5 Americans suffer from mental health problems? It seems apparent to me that the programs currently offered are not enough to stop this crisis from getting worse. Now, again, I understand there are a lot of programs and the industry is a very large industry. There's a lot of money in it. And what I see lacking is lasting results. When I take on a new client, I make it very clear from the get-go, I don't want you to stay with me. I wish for you that you be independent, that you take your power back. I'm holding your hand, and then you know that I'm just a phone call away or an email away or a text message away. I'm here, but I wish for you that you're independent. Now, these independent people who reconnected with love, who learned what love is, they already will make different choices and selections when it comes to partners. Because they will make different choices when it comes to partners, their heart is already more protected than ever before. And there's no need to build the metaphorical, monumental wall around our hearts. So yes, I'm no longer vulnerable. No, I'm going to be now very strong and cold and hard. No, that's not the solution. The solution is that we learn skills so that we can reveal unreliable people and keep them out. When we have skills to reveal unreliable people, then we can also see that the unreliable people keep themselves far from us. Now they, the unreliable people, have a great chance to better themselves when they really want to get closer to me or to you or to somebody who learned the formula for finding true love. Therefore, I don't need my Chinese wall around me. I can show my vulnerability and I can still feel safe. And in case I still get hurt, I will have the skills and the tools to heal my hurt and let go of the pain. And do not consider it as a mistake, because what is a mistake? I like the play on words, and I just dissected the word mistake earlier this week in a session with a client. It is a mistake or it is a mistake. So when, for example, I put a fence around me and I put a wooden stake here around me where I then can put the fence on, then it goes back to me that, the stake was not in the right place, or maybe it moved, or maybe it fell over. So it's not a mistake. They don't exist. These are lessons to be learned, and they're a calling for us to reinforce or establish maybe for the first time clear boundaries and clear agreements.
Wowzers, 1 in 5. That is such an alarming statistic. And I imagine that it's fairly consistent throughout the world, not just limited to America. And I think that really highlights that we're at a point where we need to do something, or we're going to devolve, I think, as a species into something unrecognizable. In my opinion, I think one of the most amazing and most special parts of human beings is their capacity to love, their capacity to create, their capacity to be different, to be unique. I think that's one of the best things about us. And I like that you definitely seem to have this sort of path worked out where it's not a vague, love is the answer. Like, you actually have the steps.
Totally.
Where this is a solution for the world. And so that impresses me. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode, because it's all very well saying, oh, yeah, love is the answer. Let's all feel good together. Awesome. How do we actually pull that off? Because that's a big deal when there's 8 billion people and 1 in 5 of them are royally facing struggles and difficulties with their mental health. And I could imagine that a lot of that is lack of support and a lack of awareness around what it takes to have a healthy mental health in our society nowadays. So many things have been twisted and turned and are now unrecognizable from what we grew up believing, that it is no surprise that people's heads are spinning. So I would like to say to our audience out there, please be inspired. Please, there is a way forward, and there's a way forward together. And what Daisy's talking about, she is super humble about, but I know that she's been behind the scenes working at this for much of her adult life, bringing her learnings and her experience to a point where she's able to share it with other people in a meaningful way that can actually be implemented. So I do urge all of you out there, go to baldandblonde.live, go to the shop and get the 5+2 formula for finding true love. Read it. It is game-changing. I know that I resonated with it immediately. It was not difficult to consume or understand. It is such a great way of looking at a future where we are all happier, we are all better off, we are all nicer to each other, we are all supportive. And because there are so many of us on the planet, the thought of inspiring change is overwhelming. I'm just one little person down here in Australia doing a weekly podcast. And I think that it's easy to underestimate how big our impact on others can be. Now, sure, we are heard in nearly 100 countries, so our impact is a little bit bigger than other people's may be. But I believe this starts at grassroots. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world and listening to us, there is a way to get your hands on this book. If you absolutely cannot afford it, reach out to us. We will help you out. Get your hands on this book and start in your community, start in your family. Inspire other people with what is there, because I do think that if everybody takes a small step, we're all one step closer to a better society and a more loving earth. And look around, look at your children, look at your grandchildren. Maybe you have great-grandchildren. Is that not what you want for them? Mm-hmm. It's what I want for my grandchild, who I got to spend time with yesterday. Very amazing. He inspires me to be the best version that I can be, but also inspires me to keep doing this and hopefully inspire you guys out there. So that's what I urge of you. Go and get the book, read the book, and understand where Daisy's coming from when she talks about this. There is a way to do this. There is a way for all of us to inspire each other to be better. There is a better future. We don't need to go down the road that we're currently on. I do see that there can be something much brighter and better for all of us. Now, I know that it is tough for you, Daisy, to sit there and be talked about like that. But I do need to say that on behalf of humanity, I'm glad that I've met you and that I've learnt what you've experienced and written about yourself. And I think that everybody needs to know it. And I know that in between you feeling overwhelmed from that and probably very humble, because I know you're a humble person, I need you to toot your own horn for a minute. Is there anything that I missed that you want to make sure everybody hears about this subject?
I rarely honk in the car. Now, why would I honk in the podcast and toot my horn? So, no. Nevertheless, I truly, humbly appreciate your words and your insight, because I know that the 5+2 had a great impact on your life and the lives around you. And I think it is maybe a good idea. It's not very long. I think it's maybe 25 minutes long. I forgot how long it was. We can link the presentation that I did online in the description of this podcast, and people can watch it. And maybe we put it on the Bald and Blonde website. I didn't even think about doing that. It is so clear. And I understand that at the beginning, it may sound abstract and may sound idealistic. And I admit, I consider myself partially an idealist. Nevertheless, I've seen so many people suffer, and I've seen so many people heal their inner world, and I've seen lives changing around the globe who learned the 5+2 and who stick to it because they made it their standard. And in a very short amount of time, the dynamics change. Is it possible that who we believed are our best friends may reveal themselves when we have a closer look that they are not, or they may have never been? That's possible. But then finally, the self-deceit can end because we start loving ourselves. That's where it begins. And when we don't know how to love ourselves, because I hear it in so many presentations, and some leaders in the coaching industry say, yes, you must love yourself. Okay, how do you do that? Where is the instruction? I missed it. I'm missing it since 15 years. And actually since 13 years when I came up with the 5+2, and then in 2016 when I finally wrote it into a book that was released then in 2017. But it is possible. And I wish for all humans that this is available freely, generously around the globe. That is why I'm working on finding sponsors who will translate the books into their native language for their people, so that people can understand it and read it in their own language, because I only speak 3. I cannot do more translations. English is also not my first language. I understand that sometimes it's more convenient and easier to understand and easier to learn when we read it in our native tongue. Now, when we go back to the mental health, because it is not taught from little on that, hey, little kid, you're 2, 3, 4 years old, you have emotions, and it's okay to have emotions because that's energy in motion. And children are taught when they are angry, that's bad. Don't be angry. First of all, the brain doesn't understand the word no. Negations don't really click in the brain. There are so many tiny little aspects that every single one of us can do. It's not rocket science. I'm blonde. I was able to find out, and I'm capable of utilizing it in my everyday life. And I bring it forward and deliver it to other people so you can do exactly the same. There's a blueprint. It's super easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go into it.
It is super easy. And right now, I just want to call out to our vast audience around the world. If there is anybody out there who would be willing to donate some resources, some time, effort, funding to help Daisy translate the 5+2 into more languages, perhaps you're in a position where you can translate it into your native language and help share it out, please get in touch with us. That is something that we would love to do with you. You can contact us at baldandblonde.live. There's a contact page, or you can go to daisypap.com or selfrecoding.com. Of course, Self-Recoding is our podcast major sponsor. It has powered us from day dot right through till now, the final episode of season 7. It is mind-blowing that we are here and we are not going anywhere. So Please stay tuned, come back and hear what we have got up our sleeves for you in season 8. That's it from us today. We do hope that you consume this podcast a couple of times and really think about what we've had to say. Share it with your family and friends, and then go and get the 5+2 formula for finding true love. There are some episodes that we've done about the book too. You can search them on the Bald and Blonde website. So that's it from us today. Thank you to our listeners in 97 countries and growing. Keep sharing, keep reviewing, keep giving us 5 stars, and keep supporting us. We appreciate every single one of you out there.
Thank you.
That's it from us today. We'll talk to you soon. We are Bald and Blonde.
Mindset Evolution. Talk to you next time. Thank you for listening in to the Bald and Blonde Mindset Evolution podcast. Please share our show with your family and friends. Together, we make this world a better place for you, for us, for future generations. When you need consulting or coaching, visit selfrecoding.com. Also, please remember to rate us 5 stars and leave a review and support us at baldandblonde.live. Talk to you soon.